there's other ways to cut and carve than to actually cut towards you. There's no reason for you to cut towards you at all, unless you're a fine wood carver and carving a spoon and have all the techniques down and the proper knives to be making the proper cuts and actually bracing the workpiece and in control of your knife blade at all times. You should never ever cut towards yourself. A dull knife is a dangerous knife. Keep it sharp. Is there anything that you want to say about that? Okay.
Going along with what he's saying, some of the different methods that you can use. The variation, as you saw, was kind of low. Another method, I don't know, I think they're both called the chest lever, aren't they? When you get it up, and you're actually not moving the knife. It's stationary, and this finger is actually into my sternum. You pull the wood towards you, okay? So this is not going anywhere. Another variation of this, I'll try to get where you guys can see it, is you can, a lot of people do this, I've seen them, put it against the shin, and then you can pull the wood towards you. Okay, and this way, there again, you're not swinging this, it's not going anywhere. If you slip, it's not going to hurt anything. Okay? Another thing, and this is a huge safety issue, and people don't realize it, from your knees to the groin area, this is known as the triangle of death. All right, you nick an artery in there, you have about 3 minutes before you bleed out. It's very, very gruesome death. I've seen it. So anytime you're doing any of this stuff, keep any sharp objects out of this region, okay? It's a huge, huge thing to remember. And I see.
Get ready to get to the fun part. Get ready to start doing some stuff, okay? We need to have a quick discussion real fast before you guys break out into your groups, because we're going to start the fire phase of this training, okay? We're going to be teaching you guys how to start fires. You're going to make 25 or 30 fires before this class is over, but you're going to start today. So I want to have a quick discussion about tinders, because that's important. Before we start anything else, we need to learn what tinder is and how to collect it and how to find it. All right? Natural tinders are very abundant in eastern woodlands. You just have to know what to look for. Everything, the one thing I want you to keep in your head, there's one word I want you to keep in your head, or 2 words I guess, is surface area. Okay? Everything with sparks and starting fire has to do with surface area. Okay? If I have a solid object, it's hard for that object to take a spark. If I create multiple objects that are smaller for those sparks to land on, then I have a lot better chance of catching something on fire. All right? Well, let's use a cotton ball for example real quick, because you guys are going to be using a cotton ball to start a fire when you do a 1 cotton ball fire. Okay? If I take this cotton ball, and it's just a nice cotton ball, and I throw it down here and I start throwing sparks at it, it might catch fire. It probably will, because it's a cotton ball. But if I do this and stress it out and get all those little fine hairs sticking up, now there ain't no question that's going to catch fire. All right? And it's the same thing when you're collecting natural material. If you're using inner barks or outer barks or plant materials or fibers, all of those things are about creating surface area. So when you go out and get bark tinders, and this all has to do with possum mentality. You're going to hear that statement a lot this weekend. We're going to be talking a lot about possum mentality. That means that anything you see that's a useful item, you grab it when you see it. You don't say, I'll come back and get it later, because you might not be coming back. When you see it, you stuff it. You should always have enough room in your pack. If you're just carrying the 10 C's, there should always be extra room in your pack. You should always be extra room in your pockets. You should be stuffing your pockets with stuff everywhere you walk that you might be able to use later, especially fire starting materials. I can't stress that enough, okay? Because there's going to be times this week where I'm going to say, okay guys, 5-minute fire, go. And it's going to be it. You're going to have 5 minutes to start a sustainable fire with whatever you got on your person, okay? So let's talk about barks real quick. This is what tulip poplar bark looks like when you get it off a tree. It looks like this, okay? Some of this would probably start fire, but it's not the optimum way to start fire with tulip poplar bark. The optimum thing for me to do is to take a smaller piece of this to conserve my resources and break it up into fine fibers, like this, and create a bird nest with it. And a bird nest is a bird nest, okay? Well, if we say go make a bird nest, you should come back with something that looks like a bird nest. So think about what a bird nest looks like, because a bird nest is always the best bird nest. So if you can find a bird nest, Put it in your pocket. A bird nest will almost always catch fire. All you have to do is break it up. So what you're looking for is you're looking to break this stuff up, this bark, into very fine fibers to increase what? The surface area. Okay? Those fine fibers sticking up are what's going to catch a spark and we're going to create fire. This is a strangler vine. Okay? There's a lot of these out here on this property. They grow around the trees, they grow in big patches in the trees, and they all have this stringy bark on them like this. Again, this stuff makes great tinder because it's up off the ground. Anything that's up off the ground swinging in a breeze is most likely going to be dry unless it just got done raining. Again, same thing with this. You just shred it. Just like I did with this, you're going to shred it up to make your bird nest. And a bird nest shouldn't be this. A bird nest should be this. A bird nest should be the size of a bird nest. A bird nest should be the size of a baseball. Okay? When you're getting ready to start a fire, you may only get one chance. You may be so cold in an emergency situation that you get one bite at the apple before you can't do it anymore. Don't waste that one shot. Make sure that you're going to be able to start fire. Get yourself a big bird nest. Okay? Grasses are great combustible material. There's plenty of dead grasses out here, plenty of dead weeds. But it's the same thing. You've got to bust them up. You've got to process them. Most of natural material fire starting is in the processing of the material. Take your time to process it and expose all of the fine inner fibers in that stuff. Don't just take a wad of grass and start throwing sparks all over it. Break it up, bust it up, make sure those fine hairs are sticking up. Combine that with bark. Combine that with dead weed tops. Get the most combustible material you can get into that bird nest before you even try to start a fire with it. Something like this will take the spark off a ferro rod. You don't have to have an accelerant. You don't have to have anything else. This will be enough as long as it's dry. Now if it's wet, it'll still burn, but you're probably going to have some flame to go with it. That's where things like surefire come in. That's where things like fatwood come in. We'll talk about all those things as we go. But what I want you to understand is now, before we do anything, because your first exercise is going to be finding natural tinder material, I want you to understand that surface area is what it's all about. So natural tinder material is not a stick. Okay? Tinder is highly combustible.
All right. I'm walking around with a few guys. We gotta get enough tinder to make 3 fires, and from what I've seen, a few of us aren't doing so good. But y'all seen my videos. Yeah, I got a whole bag full here. Just waiting on them to get back. So that's what they're doing, is walking around getting tinder. There's an old homestead back in there. Down at the bottom of the hill, that's the yurt and the teepee, which they ain't going back in there. It's so muddy right now. Dave should have known better putting them down in that hollow like that. It's gonna get wet. With this big hill right here, well, there just ain't really no place flat to put them up about middle ways anyway. Wind will blow them away. But every bit of this is all part of the Pathfinder school. A lot of land out here.